And now for the main event. So as you know, the main topic for this event is how to align sales and marketing. Now we know the current normal and the future normal is still being developed. And we're all just sort of getting used to working at home for the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And when things were normal, aligning and integrating sales certainly was a challenge. So obviously, in this new environment that we're living in, it's even probably more of a challenge. So I'd like to turn to our panelists. I'm going to first ask Arnaud to comment on what are the current challenges that might be different, and how are you overcoming them in terms of aligning sales and marketing? There we go.
Well, I think with the whole work from home, I think that the interesting thing from a Genesys standpoint, it's been responding and being there for our customers and putting offers out there that really connects with what they needed right away, which is having masses of agents that were in contact centers work from home. And so from a marketing standpoint, it's how do we really rally around that, have the intelligence around what customers we need to focus on, and execute in a coordinated sales and marketing way to get this offer in front of them, and to really have it aligned with our company kind of culture, not just in helping companies drive greater effectiveness in their customer service and customer experience, greater efficiencies, but also connect with empathy. And that it's not just for us trying to make, these are free offers, and just really being there for our customers. So it's been a challenge, but also a way to kind of get things together. Now, taking this current crisis and taking a step back, we've been moving aggressively to an account-based focused, and really we call it account-based everything, not account-based marketing, because it's not just about marketing. And the key thing is how you align with sales, to be clear about who you're going after and how you're partnering to go after that. So a lot of old ways of doing business where marketing had the leads and sales took the opportunities, a lot of those things have gone away. And where we're focused on being there with sales, not just from the lead cycle, but all the way through the opportunity cycle with our programs, with our sales development reps. And I'll speak more as we get further down, but it's that big transition from an account-based standpoint has really driven an incredible amount of alignment between marketing and sales.
Micheline, would you like to comment on aligning in sales and marketing in this new normal?
Yes, similar to Arnaud, our whole team was always set kind of on account-based programs. Arnaud hit it right on the head in terms of it's not marketing, because if marketing just did it, it wouldn't be really account-based. It would be just go into this black space where no one follows up on it. So we've always built a field marketing team that is very go-to-market strategy focused. So they're actually strategists within the field, and they partner with sales. So when this craziness happened, the first thing we did was we did a very kind of all hands approaching our customers. We wanted to check in on our customers, see how they were doing. So it was really not, it was very just, we're just checking in on you. How are you doing? Even with our prospects, just to make sure that they were doing okay. We're not, continuing to pitch hard and sell hard, but it was really how are things going on the kind of personal front, and we're here to support you. The silver lining from the Zscaler side is our value prop is helping them work from home. So we had a different type of reaction to what we would have normally seen, is that customers were coming to us asking for help to make them, help them deploy their employees quickly and securely to their home. So it was a little bit of a different reaction, a positive one. And we were so honored to have these customers come and ask us for help. And then have all these people react in a way that we were able to secure them. So from an ABM strategy, we've doubled down on that. We've made sure that whatever happens at corporate or headquarters, I hate the word corporate, but wherever it happens at HQ, the field marketing team personalized those programs and really did this kind of more one-to-few engagement based on virtual events. So we had to flip everything from physical to virtual, and learning a lot, like you've done many in the last 30 days, and learning on the different kinds we've been testing, the different types of events.
Let me put you on the spot. What's the biggest surprising thing that you've learned with virtual events that maybe you wouldn't have thought of before this whole thing started?
Well, we were surprised that they were positively reacted to that, like people attended. So we have these workshops that we hold, and they're physical workshop with hands-on training, and they're all done in person. So we did user group and physical workshops, and literally within a week, we flipped it to virtual, and we thought, gosh, we'd be happy if we had a few. And we had a waiting list, and there were many people attending. So I was pleasantly surprised. But of course, now that everybody's kind of moving to virtual, it'll be interesting to see how we keep up with that, because it does become spamming, right? I think Anna mentioned, like, we don't want to make sure we're not, or someone mentioned, we don't want to do emailing all the time. So how do we engage in a meaningful way? But that was probably the biggest, it was a good surprise, but I was surprised.
Thank you. Steve, would you like to comment on this topic?
Yeah, thank you. So I think in a similar fashion, our immediate reaction was really to think about our customers and what we could do to help them. There's certainly customers of ours that are in hospitality and travel that went into complete crisis mode. So what we try to do is provide help with products that we knew could provide immediate value. Part of what we offer is the ability to gather feedback from customers and employees, to crowdsource ideas. And these are all really mission critical, but be able to deliver that story in a way that's not exploitive was really important. So for customers, we actually were, I think in a similar way, we're giving away products. They look, just go deal with your current issues, and we'll worry about everything else later, but here's some things that we think that can help you now, and try to provide that value where we could. At the same time, I think like a lot of companies, we obviously the transition from physical to virtual is something that we're still managing through, but at the same time, we're a public company. Our goals haven't changed for what we're trying to deliver from a demand and from a sales perspective. So we really prioritize heavily within our product offering suite about which products are most relevant now. For example, we have a digital offering. So many companies have lost their physical interaction channels with their customers. Digital has become the only channel that's actually meaningful now. So being able to optimize that channel becomes really important. So we've pivoted around which products we're prioritizing, which of course has generated new needs around content and use case development that are relevant now and timely now. So that has been rolled into our ABM programs, the partnership between marketing and sales about how we're targeting, which companies we're talking to, the stories that we're telling, is become really a critical part of our, and I don't think we've solved that entirely yet. We're still working through the changes, but certainly, it's continued to be a focus for us. And I think probably the biggest challenge we face with the virtual events is really to try to replicate the physical interactions that would have occurred in a physical setting with our city tours and our local events, and have the sales involvement occurring at the same level virtually. So we have the similar kinds of outcomes, and that's still a model that's in progress.
So how do you do that? Or how are you trying to do that?
I think the biggest difference is that when we threw virtual events previously was in the format of a webinar or a hosted session, it really was viewed as a marketing campaign, a marketing activity. And now we're very specifically bringing in salespeople to be participants in those events. We've also built roundtable sessions, small scale roundtables of our customers. And it's been really gratifying to see them actually interact with each other and talk about what they're experiencing, come up with ideas for each other. So the side benefit was, as they were talking, it was actually creating cross-sell opportunities, because they were saying, look, we're using the product this way, and it's giving us this value, and other participants would say, well, that sounds interesting. And so being able to make sure the workflows are in place for listening to the interactions, listening to the need states that are being expressed, and have the mechanisms to follow up is what we're trying to do to replicate that physical experience.
Well, they say there's no better salesperson than a happy customer. So by the fact that you're providing the forums for that to happen makes a lot of sense. Anna, would you like to comment on this topic, please?
So, very similar to what Steve mentioned, what the first thing that we saw with the stay-at-home order was that all of a sudden the productivity have increased, because we're all staying at home and we're constantly on these Zoom meetings. And we realized that previously, where we flew to meet customers, we could just effectively doing that using Zoom meeting and online meetings. And because we're global, oftentimes now, I actually get on a lot more of these calls with our teams in India, in London, where in the past, it's just mostly through Slack. So from that perspective, definitely the collaboration is at a much higher level, and productivity, interestingly, and as a result, is happening at a higher level. I do want to say, though, that when we first got the order to stay at home, we noticed a big drop, obviously, in different verticals of our customer base. So if you're in travel, hospitality, we were seeing a big slowdown. But interestingly, in other sectors like consumer goods, especially if you're in health and beauty, you see a surge, in their activities. So this is kind of where we're seeing from our customer base. And as far as from the sales and marketing collaboration, when this COVID-19 stay-at-home orders first hit, it virtually shut down a lot of the comms between our sales team and the customers. I mean, everybody is meeting internally, trying to figure out what is the next step for, from a marketing standpoint. So what we've done at Jivox is we started a lot of initiatives. One of them is called Word of the Day, because we believe that, when a time like this, we don't always just reach out because we want to sell products. This is a time where we want to express and empathize. And so everybody comes up with a word, the salespeople, the customer success support, and so forth. So these words could be anything like courage, like family, like determination. And we write a little story about how we deal with this situation and how it relates to the community around us. And so that one has gone, every week, once or twice every week, we post that on LinkedIn. So we use social media as a way to continue to connect with customers. And so that, I think we're starting to see some response, and we feel that is one of the ways where marketing and sales can really come together, because I'm sure this is true with everybody today, is that marketing and sales have the common goal, which is revenue. And we're tied together in so many ways. And so, marketing and sales are really partners in every aspect, from lead gen to brand. And in fact, the whole company from that perspective, from the brand perspective. So yeah, this is some of the great learnings, we've had recently.
Yeah, I thought your comment about being better connected with people across different geographies is really interesting, because one of the things that we're learning through our virtual events is, when we have face-to-face events and you're doing a lunch in a city, you really can only expect people from, say, 20 miles at the most to show up. But now that we're doing virtual events, obviously that geography restriction is gone. And what we're finding on behalf of our clients is we're actually able to get more target named accounts. And our next topic is going to be account-based marketing, so this is a nice segue. But we're actually able to get more target accounts and even more senior people to participate, because the virtual events that we do, as you can tell from this session, are relatively short. So the commitment is less. They don't have to spend, half a day driving to a lunch and then driving back. So that we're finding our ability to actually attract more target accounts across geographies. So for example, if we're doing an event in, say, Texas, we're able to draw upon Dallas, Houston, and Austin, where in the past we'd have to pick one city and stick to that. So I just wanted to point out that geography advantage when it comes to virtual as well. Avi, I wanted to hear from you about this topic before we move to the next one, which is account-based marketing.
Yeah, definitely. So at Contrast Security, just to frame up, Contrast has about 275 employees, a 50-person sales team, 15 people on the SDR team, and probably half a dozen or so people in marketing. So we're kind of a startup in a scale-up mindset. And yes, we are doing account-based marketing efforts where we work with our with our sales teams in terms of driving, identifying target accounts based on different kinds of intent criterias. But we're also a hybrid model of account base, and also thinking about our ideal account profile, which segments across companies that are 1,000 plus in terms of employee size, and then across 6 or 7 different verticals. So for us, the hybrid model approach is the right one, because we know we have a total addressable market, but we also know that we look at inbound as a great opportunity for us. So given the fact that we have a target account list and we're doing ABM with the economic conditions today, we've basically, the pivot is doing accelerated efforts around the same. For us, instead of doing 2 webinars a month, we're doing now 3 webinars a month. Instead of doing all of our events that we were plugged into, we have probably 24 or so virtual events that we have plugged into that are focused and targeted. And then we've done some unique efforts around alignment between sales and marketing, with an incentive program that's specifically just for specific job titles within our target accounts, and a work from home promotion kit, where we're basically doing this giveaway of noise reduction headphones, desktop microphones, a daily extender, blocking sunglasses, and all this stuff basically to drive meetings with the right qualified prospects. And really these accelerated efforts have led to some strong early results for Q2, which started for us in April. We're already seeing about 40% of our sourced meetings between SDR and demand gen driven just from this effort. So we're kind of taking advantage of these economic conditions, and given the fact that we have a cybersecurity product, it now makes a lot of sense to do these efforts.
Excellent, thank you. So a few of you have mentioned account-based marketing. I wanted to call on Holly to share with us your thoughts on ABM now that the world has changed, and where do you think it's going as we try and return to what we think is sort of a new normal? Holly?
Thank you. So what I think one of the efforts that we did at Silver Peak was to continue to double down on focus. So think about your ideal customer profile and then hone the scope even further. So what we did was an analysis around all the industries and the impact of COVID on each of the different verticals. And then I put them in a higher risk, lower risk category. And then within that category, I took those industries and overlaid them over my strategic accounts. And so understood which industries might be more favorable to respond to our solutions, and then to what we're calling back burner or stand down or invest less into some of the other industries, specifically hospitality, transportation, things like that. So running that overlays helped us with focus around specifically which industries and accounts to go after with my strategic team. To further that, it's just continue to align and do the bi-weekly stand-up meetings with my sales and BDR. So it's our tripod. That tripod meeting is incredibly effective as to who's on first, where are we going next within the specific account, do we need to determine a tactic that we can apply this. So then the next wave was, what sort of new tactics can we identify that can help support where each of these accounts are at, if they're stuck, if we needed a velocity play, things like that is kind of what we're coming up with. So some of the solutions that Silver Peak has come up with is similar to what Micheline said, also is doing the roundtable activities, and then converting all the events from the face-to-face to digital. So we have a fantastic cutover. It's a 3-hour training session with them, and it's been incredibly responsive. So I agree too, is folks are responding to the virtual events, and that's nice to see. I think we need to continue to evolve and be creative as to how we're going to keep this new norm, up and running. Where is it going? That one's a tough one. I think I guess I would go back to my first answer though, is continue to hone in on who your ideal customer profile is, spend the energy and budget on those accounts, and see if you can attain those or get the attention of the accounts that you want that will truly yield a return.
Okay, fair enough. Andrea, we haven't heard from you yet. As a content marketing expert, we'd love for you to weigh in on the role of content when it comes to bridging the gap between sales and marketing and executing a successful ABM program. Andria?
Absolutely. So I had content marketing, PR, and social for Narvar. Narvar is almost 100% retail as far as our clients. So, you know, as the other speakers have mentioned, there's challenges with just being respectful of where your customers are at the moment and how can you be as helpful as possible. So we're doing similar to what Steve at Medallia is doing as far as offering our software free of charge, especially around returns. You know, as retailers have had to shut down stores, they don't have a way to manage some of these systems with their customers. So we're stepping in and helping that way. As far as content in general, we've always gone for more of a thought leadership perspective, right? What we tend to go for the executive level as far as who we're trying to reach with that content. So a lot of times it is very sort of top of funnel, high level strategic stuff. What's worked really well for us is data campaigns. So being able to surface what are those trends in the market. That has held true even during this pandemic. So one of the first things we did was we did a quick survey of our retailers, right? Where are you guys? What's going on? What have you had to do to accommodate this new normal with your customers? What do you anticipate is going to happen, including, you know, how are you readjusting your sales forecast, that sort of thing, and how can we help? And one of the things we heard loud and clear from them was thought leadership. They wanted to hear from other folks, you know, in their same situation. So they were even happy that we did that survey. We worked with McKinsey on that and did some video content with them to explain what we were seeing. We also talked to McKinsey. We talked to the former COO at Sam's Club and Walmart.com, just to get some of those perspectives. So we're not actually trying to bring too many people together. Again, just being sensitive to you know, their situation right now. And as the market is getting more and more crowded with more virtual events, we will probably try to do some smaller roundtables as things are evening out. But we really wanted to just be able to get that information and share it back with them. And this, of course, helps fuel conversations with our sales team and our CS team so that they have, you know, they're armed with some information that can really help these guys.
Great, thanks, Andrea. We have a question from Kimberly, Service Max for Avi. Avi, sending the earpods, speakers, etc. Are people giving their home addresses? I know there are ways to share for a one-time send. Just wondering if people are giving that type of info.
Great question, and thanks for asking, Kimberly. Yes, they are. So we have obviously in our Salesforce instance HQ addresses, but for those that are participating, we are seeing that the SDRs, after they complete the meetings, the prospects are willing and able to give their home addresses, but which works out well. But we had a challenge with our vendor, our direct mail vendor, where they had done some downsizing of their actual you know, staff that does the fulfillment. So for us, we kind of had to revert to a model where we're using gift cards, Amazon gift cards, and encourage the users to buy those 4 particular items that we have in the promotion kit.
Great, thanks, Avi. Our next topic is measurement. How are we measuring? So I'm going to go back to Arnaud to comment on this. So how has the way that you've been measuring changed at all? And how do you anticipate measurement moving forward?
Yeah, well, I think it's a couple of things. One, for marketing, and especially for SDRs, we were really focused on driving pipeline. And there's nothing worse than if you have a region where the pipeline delivered is great, and you're celebrating that, but sales did not make its number. So I think we've transitioned to have much more emphasis on the bookings for the entire organization. So we're all aligned with the same end goal. We're not celebrating unless we're all celebrating together. We're also looking more at measuring engagement, and where it's not that clear around it's the handoff or not. It's like, are we engaging in these accounts, especially for install base where you have sales doing more of the follow-up because they own that relationship. But what we found is that if you look at higher scoring, we built account-based scoring, and if you look at higher engagement within those accounts, we see a huge uptick in the win rate. And so those are measures that we then have that you can tie back to not just the softer old way of doing it to say, well, we've influenced this account. Well, what does that really mean? What is then the financial impact of that? And being able to tie that to an improved win rate, you're then able to tie it to an actual dollar amount. So that's another area where we focused.
Wonderful, thank you. Does anyone have any additional thoughts when it comes to measurement that they'd like to share before we address the next attendee question?
This is Micheline. We've taken a slightly different approach because there's always that marketing sales when we think about pipeline generation and marketing source versus sales sourced. So as a company, we said, we know that we need to generate pipeline together. It's not one, it's partner sales and marketing. And we know that marketing should be touching and engaging all our target accounts. And instead of kind of saying who's generated the pipeline first or brought it in, marketing is leaned more towards marketing interactions, a little bit kind of Arnaud was talking about. And our primary focus, are we engaging these accounts and these takers at a certain level? We have a KPI of how many engagements, and engage doesn't mean an email open, or it doesn't mean an ad that they've seen, but have they truly engaged with us, whether they've spent time with us one-on-one, and then now it's a virtual event, or that they've actually taken action. So we've started to lean more towards that. And as a team, we come in and we say, if our job is to warm up these accounts, and sales, how many business meetings have come out of those engagements? So it's that conversion and conversions. Yes, we still have MQLs, and yes, we still have pipeline, but to be generated, we wanted to make sure we had the right early towards the kind of the right track. You guys have been freezing. Hopefully you heard that.
Yeah, you were coming in and out. I think we heard most of it. So that's good. Steve, did you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I think that what has been fascinating over the past month and a half, and I'm sure that all of you experienced the same thing, is that there was almost a weekly life cycle when this first started to unfold, where your business turned upside down, and the patterns of behavior, the changes that we saw were literally happening on a weekly basis. Like week 1 was different than week 2, week 2 was different than week 3. And all of our metrics were literally kind of going up and down week to week. And what we really started to do around data was to say, where can we look for signals that are giving us an indication of where our customers are at? What are the changes in information that's being sought out? We were looking a lot more frequently at our website visits. Obviously, lead volume was sort of an important metric, but what we really saw was that probably the earliest indicator we had for changes was just in the search patterns we saw. So looking at our Google traffic, both inbound for SEO as well as the search patterns in paid search, we saw a really dramatic shift in the topics that were being sought after, moving much more from upper funnel down to specific need states looking to be solved. And I'm not sure it's translating necessarily to the quick pipe generation, but certainly you saw people's need states change really dramatically. And I think the fascinating pattern we've seen is that there's still a shifting weekly. I mean, it has not stabilized yet. We are starting to see some early indications that maybe we're going back to a little bit more of a normal pattern. So I think that's really been the big learning, was that there probably are some sources of data you have that you can look at and start to triangulate on where you see changes, where that is a good ability to start to infer where your customers and prospects are at in their short-term priorities. And I would say, don't assume that where they're at this week is going to look the same way in 3 weeks, because we're still seeing a lot of swings in where customers are at, and companies are and the actions they're taking to try to adapt in their own workflows.
Thank you. So I'm going to pivot to a question from Nadine at Veritas. Thank you, Nadine, for your question. What kind of attendance are you seeing at virtual events? Is it greater than pre-COVID? I certainly will take a stab at answering that from my perspective, but before I do so, does anyone else want to jump in and comment on your experience with your own virtual events?
I can comment. This is Avi. From virtual events or webinars, as I had mentioned, we're doing a larger volume of webinars, we have seen a big spike in attendance. We would, on an average, see between 30 to 40% of registration attendance. Now we're seeing upward of 60%. So it's I think that strategy and that tactic has been working pretty effectively for us. We're going to continue to do more of that.
Thanks, Avi. Did anyone else want to comment on this?
We're seeing similar as well in attendance. Definitely in registrations, we've seen tons more, and on demand as well. We're starting to see just from what we've done with the last few weeks.
Yeah, same here. Even though we've gone asynchronous with our content, we're seeing definitely a lot more uptake on the on-demand side.
And we're seeing the same, but I think the difference between what we're seeing is also the topics, whether it's top of mind. So I think that has a lot of play into the driving the attendance.
Yeah, we're seeing a similar thing. We're seeing definitely greater attendance to our events. But like I made the point before, I think just as important, if not more important, is the quality of attendance we're seeing. And that is because you have a greater ability to focus and target on target accounts using an account-based marketing strategy, regardless of geography. I think that's a game changer that really we had no idea what the impact would be before all this started. And it's proving itself to be an incredible factor in improving not just quantity, but actual quality of participants. That's what we're seeing. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic, which is marketing in the field. So we all know that we haven't been able to do face-to-face events. Obviously, that's why we're here today, going through Zoom. But our field marketing strategies, and we're still organized from a sales perspective, many of us, through geography. So how are we managing that now that we're not able to do face-to-face activities, at least temporarily? How are we serving our geography fields in this new age? I'll open that up to anyone who wants to take a stab at it. Although I think, Anna, you expressed some interest in this topic in our preparation call. Yeah, sure. So I think we were talking about that in the context of partner marketing. As you know, bandwidth is one of the major challenges because every partner has many other partners. So we first identify what's important is the right key partners. And we feel that it's more important to have partners who are aligned with your objectives and are better engaged. And so this is where we partner with them, and we use a portfolio of events. For example, like webinar by far is the easiest to put together and the easiest to drive attendance. We also in the past had regional events, conferences for lead generation. Because of the current stay-at-home orders, we're actually exploring different ways to maybe host online conferences. So that's definitely an area that we're looking into right now with the partners. But I think at least from this quarter and next quarter, in my planning, all the events are so far online.
This is Arnaud. I think the other interesting thing from our end is, yes, we are a global company and our marketing, the way we're running our initiatives are global, but oftentimes they still start in the US and then the regions are kind of reacting later. And so the US is more direct, other regions are more partner centric. So then they also are trying to play catch up. And with this crisis, with this virus, it clearly forced us to think more about the regions up front, to think about the partners up front. So how you're rolling things out, it is not, let's just take care of this first and then the others will follow. It's like, how do you approach it globally so that the translations, the enablement, the awareness, getting them involved early, that all those things happen at a much more accelerated pace with an eye towards user, that marketing person in the region that then needs to take that message to their audience. So I think we've gone down that path in our global campaigns, but I think this is really has us reflect on areas where we can do a better job and engage the partner community, the regional marketing community much earlier.
Just to add to that, what we've learned is that from the headquarters, we do a lot of webcasts and campaigns, digital campaigns, and the field marketing tend to do personalized physical events. And so what we had to kind of really step back and say, okay, now everything's virtual. And from a prospect and a customer perspective, they may all look and sound similar because we're reaching out. Everything's online now, and how do we engage? So we had to step back and look and make sure that we categorized whether we wanted to do workshops, hands-on labs, webcasts. We really recategorized all of our virtual events and made sure that it was clear, and we're still working through that, to be honest, that it's clear to our audience what we're actually delivering and why they should attend, so they don't all sound similar, even though the topics may be the same, different, but it's overwhelming for our audience to kind of see all these online events and attend an hour here, 2 hours here. It's a workshop, it's a happy hour, it's a user group. Yeah. So we really had to, and it sounds like we're kind of faking it if we don't really clarify what they're going to get out of it. So that's something that we had to revisit to clearly distinguish and articulate the value of these online events.
Thank you, Micheline. So here's a question that we didn't prepare for, but since it's such an all-star panel, I'm just going to throw it at you, and I think you guys can handle it. And that is sales teams' behavior with virtual events. One challenge that many of our clients are finding that we've learned over the last month of doing these is that the sales team is having some trouble engaging on these virtual events. It's just, they're not used to it. They're more used to face-to-face events. They're more used to sitting at a table, shaking hands, sharing a meal. And let's face it, we've all had to get used to this new world that we're living in. It's not easy, but many of our clients are having issues and challenges with their sales team. So how are you experiencing that, number one? And if you are, how are you dealing with it? How are you overcoming it? I'll open it up to anyone who wants to take a stab.
I'll jump in there. So it's tight alignment with our sales reps. So working very closely with our field marketing managers, and we have a fantastic regional team. So I think it's understanding what the sales reps want from a topic standpoint. So lending an ear to understand what that region wants. So then when they have engagement and buy-in, they're more likely to help set up. And then I think it's distributing the allocation of responsibility. So certainly marketing has access to the main database. But then I think having a quota against the sales reps and asking them to contribute their part. And then when they start seeing the goodness that comes of it, then featuring the individual that contributed across the board will help kind of lead the pack, the others to support.
Just
Thank you.
To add to that, we're still learning what's the best way. I think sales and marketing were hesitant. How do we create these personalized engagement? But I think, like Holly, if we're aligning, the field marketing team, again, I'm proud of my team. They're exceptional in how they engage with the sales reps. And together they've come up with new, fresh ideas. Like in Europe, they did a beer tasting where they would normally have done a beer tasting. Literally, they kept it and they shipped these e-cards that they can order. And then they would do these one-on-ones. In the US, we're doing these other types of, whatever's relevant. But now we're learning from the different Zooms, like how do we do breakout sessions after we do an event? Can we do a one-on-one breakout right after? We use On24 as well for webcasts. How do we kind of continue that engagement? We're also looking at user conference going virtual. How do we build? I think the mistake for us, if we kept thinking virtual is similar to physical, people don't consume content the same way as a physical. So we have to readapt what was going to be our user conference into a more user-friendly, digestible virtual content. So it's definitely a great many hours of conversations internally. Still trying to figure it out, but we're learning slowly as we go. But it is that close alignment with sales.
I think it's a key point in just how these things become more consumable online, and that for our user group, which is now going to be a virtual event, where even like the main stage, like the main sessions, where they used to be 45 minutes to an hour, are now going to be 15 minutes each.
We're also breaking up the types of content. I completely agree on the brevity. I mean, it has to be tight, concise buckets of time that we're asking people to sit in sessions. We're also breaking up our sessions into interactions with customers, separated from thought leadership, separated from product related information. And so that also allows the salespeople to align their time where they're focusing. I think the key is really around the process we put in place and how we use our MarTech stack to make sure that the follow-up processes after there's an engagement by somebody, by a prospect or a customer is tight. Make sure that that information is being passed along to the SDR team and they're aligned with their sales reps. Our customer event, our user event is also next month. And we've also cut back the duration of the sessions. I think, you know, that still a challenge remains. We had our goal for how much pipe we expected to generate out of the event, and that hasn't gone away. So how do you try to replicate that in the virtual event? It is going to involve more of a partnership, and certainly with our field marketers now becoming forced to become digital marketers, you know, getting them involved in the process for what the follow-up looks like and how we engage the sales team, making sure the content that is being presented is being shared and is relevant for current times.
Great.
One
Looks
thing
like we just
that, sorry, Steve, would be, this is also a time to embrace a little bit of fun and challenge. So field marketing is probably one of the more creative roles in the organization that you don't have many defined rules because you're in the field. So I think, you know, as leaders back at headquarters that you guys might be, challenge your team to come up with new programs and then incentivize them. Start having some fun. Start letting some gift cards go, or coffees or contests or win, but kind of evoke the fun. I don't think there's really a wrong way that you could do this right now. So take the opportunity to trailblaze and empower the team to come up with some new ways, and you'll find some cool ways that you'll probably be repeatable.
So I really like what Holly mentioned about having fun, because I don't know if you all are experiencing some burnout from all these online meetings. And so I feel like after a few weeks, you know, the attendance started to decline a little bit. So what we're doing internally, and this might be something that we might roll out to more customer facing, is so in some of these internal happy hour meetups and stuff like that, we would have a program. So at one point, our CEO would have host this how to make certain kinds of drinks, right? And then there's also a cooking class hosted by one of our salespeople. And so that, and then there's also a talent show. And so I think ideas like this would be a good way to warm up the crowd. And then from there, if we want to build the topics and move on to talk about something else, but just adding, you know, things like that, that would really make a virtual event a lot more fun.
Great suggestions there. And on that note, we are out of time for our panel discussion. So I just want to thank our panel, Holly, Steve, Avi, Arnaud, Anna, Micheline, Andria. Thank you so much for sharing all of your experiences and your knowledge and what you've learned over the past 6 weeks and where you think things are going. We want to now continue these conversations in smaller groups so we can hear from more of the attendees and get their perspectives too, because we certainly can all learn from each other. So while we are transitioning back into our breakout sessions, I just wanted to thank everyone for participating, and we hope that you stay safe and you come out of this okay. And we look forward to seeing you at a future event, whether it be virtual or hopefully face-to-face soon. Thank you very much.